What you're looking at, depending on which part of the world you belong to, are either a series of failed experiments requiring millions of dollars and decades of relentless hard work,
was very expensive,
or the greatest space research experiments in human history.
Putting humans into space, but this mission is a moon flyby. What's taken us so long to come back?
Russians are accused of performing the craziest experiments in history, whether it's the famous Russian sleep experiment or the Caspian sea monster, jet-powered train, two-headed dogs, and many other bizarre and controversial projects. I thought the world of Russian experiments were too cruel to be explained, but after researching about these experiments, now I don't think it's the story that I initially thought it was. This is the story of Russia's suicide missions to Venus, missions that revealed the planet's most frightening secrets, how a small lens cap on a camera lens reduced years of hard work, billions of dollars, to ashes. What was really there that even with today's most advanced technology, Russia would never return? It all started here. What you're looking at is one of the greatest space missions by the Soviet Union, called Venera 1, otherwise known as Heavy Satellite. In the 1960s, during the Cold War, the United States and Russia were engaged in a bitter struggle to show the world who would be the king of space. Both countries had to show the world their power and capability. The whole world had its eyes on America's Apollo missions. In this struggle, America poured all its might into reaching the moon. It is true that Russia had already won part of this struggle by landing their probes on the surface of the moon. However, American President John F. Kennedy had promised the whole world that before 1970 began, the United States would land a man on the moon. When the Soviets realized that America might really reach the moon, they changed their target to Venus. Their plan was simple. If America could set foot on the moon, then Russia would set foot on hell itself. Until then, scientists thought that the planet Venus and Earth were very similar, having almost equal sizes, and their distance from the Sun. However, there was one difference that was apparent even from a distance. Unlike Earth, Venus is fully covered with thick clouds, and at that time nobody knew what was hidden beneath them. Even for scientists, it was a closed mystery box. The Soviets thought that the moon could be viewed using a telescope. However, if they could demonstrate to the world what was hidden inside Venus, it would be an achievement even greater than America landing on the moon. And if they were able to capture pictures of oceans, forests, or even aliens beneath those clouds, it would be a decisive victory. With this goal in mind, the Soviets had planned not 1, 2, but 18 missions to Venus. The spacecraft they designed for this purpose was named Venera, which is the Russian word for Venus. At that time, one thing was certain. The dense cloud cover and Venus's proximity to the Sun meant that the planet had an atmosphere, but how thick it was compared to Earth's atmosphere was unknown. So they designed Venera to resist very high atmospheric pressure. During the space race era, whatever the experiments the Soviets undertook were kept secret from the world until they succeeded. Otherwise, they would have to endure the shame of failure. On February 4, 1961, Russia launched its first mission to Venus. However, it didn't even make it out of Earth's orbit. Following their tradition, they didn't announce this failure to the world. Instead, they simply announced that they launched a heavy satellite. The Soviets had another trick. They designed 2 probes for every mission. If one didn't work, the other would still be able to carry out the mission. This time, they designed Venera 1 and Venera 2. Their mission was only a flyby of Venus and gather information. On February 12, 1961, Venera 1 was launched. It marked the first time in history that a probe was launched towards another planet. However, only 7 days after its launch, communication with Earth was lost. The probe did indeed fly by Venus, coming within 100,000 kilometers of the planet, but it didn't send back any information. To this day, it is still drifting somewhere in orbit around the Sun. 4 years later, on November 12, 1965, Venera 2 was launched. However, it suffered the same fate as Venera 1. Communication was lost shortly after leaving Earth's orbit, and the mission was a failure. It is important to note that during the 1960s, the Soviets attempted other missions towards Venus, but these also ended in complete failure. Some of these were never even given the name Venera. In the history of the space race, they are referred to as ghost missions. Then came Venera 3 and Venera 4 in the year 1966. This time, the Soviets designed and launched much larger and more powerful probes, weighing a ton each. These were divided into two sections: a bus that would carry the probe to the outer atmosphere of the planet, and a spherical section that would enter the planet itself. Inside this sphere were several instruments: a pressure sensor, also known as a barometer, a gas analyzer to identify the gases that exist in the atmosphere of Venus, a thermometer, batteries, and two antennas to send all the gathered information back to Earth. The mission of Venera 3 was only to explore the atmosphere. There was no plan or even a chance for a soft landing. In short, it was a suicide mission. However, unfortunately, as soon as it encountered the terrifying winds of Venus, it ceased to function. It was not capable of sending any information back to the Soviet scientists. But on March 1st, 1966, Venera 3 made history by becoming the first man-made object in the world to crash land on the surface of another planet. The next year, in October 1967, the Soviets had a partial success with Venera 4. It successfully landed Venus and, without any system failure this time, found out that the atmosphere of the planet was made up mostly of carbon dioxide. At first, the Soviets announced that the atmosphere of Venus was 25 times more dense than Earth's. They also announced that Venera 4 landed safely on the surface because it was equipped with a parachute. However, it was later found out that the truth was that as soon as Venera 4 entered the atmosphere of Venus, it was unable to handle the extreme pressure and was squashed like a soda can. But once the Soviets understood that their missions were not going to survive the landing on the Venusian surface, they launched Venera 5 and Venera 6, which were basically missions to be destroyed in the Venusian atmosphere. They were designed in a similar manner to Venera 4. They also had parachutes and only had 50 minutes to transmit data from the Venusian atmosphere. Both of these missions were launched in 1969, and as expected, the same thing happened. Both were squished and destroyed in less than an hour in the Venusian atmosphere, before any kind of data could be received. But the Soviets did not stop there. This time, they designed Venera 7 to be extremely robust. The spacecraft was designed like a tank. It was so heavy and robust that it had only one mission: to survive on Venus.